Ladies and gentlemen, at this time we're going to begin the memorial service portion. The service, Mrs. Suzanne Beth Cohn. The interment was earlier this morning. Those of you who are here in the sanctuary, we invite you to take a moment to be sure that your cell phones have been turned off, at least to the silent mode. We welcome those of you who are online. Officiating this afternoon is Rabbi Shoshana Conover, Cantor Shira Ben David, Rabbi Scott Gelman, and Rabbi Rena Singer.
So many people have commented that this weather seems so strange, that it was spring and then all of a sudden it is cold. We put our winter coats away and now we bring them back out. In a 5-day span, there has been warmth and sun, and then suddenly cold and snow and sleet and rain. And so here we are together in this weather that seems so strange for everyone except those of us who know what it is and whom we've lost in this world when Suzanne passed away. We lost our sunshine. We lost our sparkle. We lost that sense that the world was bright. We lost that carefree way of laughing, that indelible laugh. But here in the sanctuary, there in Bettyport Hall, here online, as we have this community of love and light and warmth from all of us who knew and loved Suzanne, and more than that, who were loved by Suzanne. We bring that warmth, that light, that love everywhere we go. And it's only fitting that this week we begin a new book in the Torah, Leviticus, that has all of these strange rituals. All of a sudden we went from the stories of our people to a book that barely makes sense. What does it all mean? What are we doing? Things feel very unfamiliar when we get to this book. And that's how we feel right now. Confused, bereft, going through rituals we don't want to go through. But we know that this is the way of life. And this is the way that our tradition tells us that together, we remember. We begin today with the Psalm 23, first sung by Cantor Shira Ben David and then read by Rabbi Rena Singer.
Adonai roi lo echsar bino tesheyarbitzeni al mei menuchot yenalei Nafshi yisholev Yoncheni v'maglei tzedek L'man shemo v'maglei tzedek L'man Shemo.
Please feel free to read with me on the inside of your sheet. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures. He leadeth me beside the still waters. God restores my soul. He leads me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of God forever.
A poem entitled Birth is a Beginning. Birth is a beginning, and death a destination, and life is a journey. From childhood to maturity, and youth to age, from innocence to awareness, and ignorance to knowing, from foolishness to discretion, and then, perhaps, to wisdom, from weakness to strength, or strength to weakness, and often back again, from health to sickness, and back we pray to health again, from offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude, from pain to compassion, and grief to understanding, from fear to faith, from defeat to defeat to defeat, until looking backwards or ahead, we see that victory lies not in some high place along the way, but in having made the journey stage by stage. A sacred pilgrimage. Birth is a beginning, and death a destination, and life is a journey, a sacred pilgrimage to life everlasting.
You can imagine that today there are so many who want to share remembrances. And so today, Eliza will begin by remembering her mom.
This isn't something I was expecting to be doing for a very long time. To be honest, I wasn't even sure if I would be able to stand up here and talk, because there are truly no words to describe the amazing person my mom was. As most of you know, I tend to talk very fast, and as my mom would remind me every time I spoke, I need to slow down. So I'll try my best so you all can understand me. Since I can remember, people have told me I was exactly like my mom. Younger me would roll my eyes or laugh. Even then, I secretly hoped it was true. And now more than ever, I hope it is. She was an amazing person, my best friend, biggest supporter, role model, and mom all in one. Her outgoing and loud personality is something I most definitely noticed in myself, and I can thank her for that. And her ability to make everyone her friend and surround herself with so many amazing people is something I've always admired. Mom, you are so incredibly strong and fought so hard. Thank you for setting an amazing example for me. I look up to you in every way possible and love you forever.
Thank you so much, Eliza. And thank you, David. We'll now hear some words from Suzanne's brother, Brent.
Thank you. That was wonderful. I actually couldn't bring myself to write anything specific.
Brent.
I wasn't able to bring myself to write anything specific. So forgive me if my words are going to be a bit messy. Over the course of the year, as we got closer to the end, patterns started to emerge, a theme that you would see in people's posts on Facebook, especially more so in the last few days. And I think we're going to hear a lot of that theme throughout the day about my sister, how she was warm and loving, and friendly, welcoming, always up for some fun, a friend to strangers. So basically, my polar opposite. And as polar opposites, we fought a lot. A lot. Suzanne broke my arm when I was little. I squeezed her and almost broke her nose with salad tongs. It was this kind of cat and mouse back and forth between us. And that fighting continued really kind of all the way to the end as well. But she was always my big sister. And we always had this deep love for each other. And she was my friend too. And I'm gonna miss her. And thank you all for your support. I love you, Suzanne.
Thank you so much, Brent. We're now going to hear from two cousins, Aaron Stein and Brad Wollack. Aaron, what's your number? Cousin number 4. We're going to hear from cousin number 4 and cousin number 5, in that order.
I sat down at the computer to create this document, and the first thing that I did was create a title, Suzanne Beth, number 1. I'm Erin Beth, number 4. And there's also Carrie Beth, number 2. I'm speaking about the 3 of the 6 Wollack cousins that have been thick as thieves our entire lives. Suzanne, number 1, Carrie, number 2, Brett, number 3, Aaron, number 4, Brad, number 5, and Seth, number 6. And now our number 1 is no longer with us. And let me tell you, she is truly number 1 and will never lose her place in our lineup. Number 1, Suzanne Beth, is a first-rate cousin and friend. She was always there for me my entire life. She has been at every single life cycle event, every birthday party, every funeral, every family dinner, every breakfast with grandma and grandpa at the bagel, every camp visit for Eliza, every night out with the cousins in the city for dinners. She prioritized relationships as her number 1, and she lived up to that number. Number 1, Suzanne Beth, was always the first one to arrive and the last one to leave. She was the number 1 partier, the one who wanted to have the most fun no matter what, the one that wanted to stay until the very end and hear just one more story. Number 1, Suzanne Beth, had the number 1 loudest voice, laugh, and smile of anyone I have ever known. She could light up a room with her spirit, always made everyone around her feel special, and made sure that she put others before herself in order to make sure that you were okay, felt comfortable, and happy. Number 1, Suzanne Beth, was one of the first people to visit me in the hospital when my children were born, lend an ear when I had a problem or difficulty, and she was number 1 at keeping secrets. Suzanne holds some of my deepest and darkest, and I know that I could always trust her unconditionally. Lastly, our number 1, we missed more than she could ever know. She made an indelible mark on so many lives, and she carried on Grandma Jo's quality of being the most social person in the room, always making friends with strangers, and then creating and maintaining relationships that have stood the test of time. No matter if you met Suzanne 6 months ago, 6 years ago, or as a child, if you had a relationship with Suzanne, she made sure that you felt like you were number 1. Suzanne has not only been my number 1 cousin my entire life, but she has been my number 1 friend who has felt like a sister to me. I love you, Suzanne Beth.
That's not true, Aaron. She revealed all your secrets when I was here the other week. With her larger than life personality, huge heart, permanent smile, and a love for not just her family and friends, but for anyone she ever met, Suzanne Beth Wollack Cohn was the best cousin I could have asked for. Cousin number 1, as she referred to herself even until these final days, reminding us all of her seniority as the oldest grandchild. She was everyone's favorite. Most notably, she was my Grandma Jo's favorite grandchild. I know that because my grandma told me several times. I don't blame her. Suzanne, as we all know, had it all. Fortunately, she shared so many of those amazing qualities with her daughter Eliza, and the world benefits greatly from that. My mom calls you Suzanne Light. Suzanne 2.0. I don't know. Just you're wonderful, Eliza. More like a sister than anything else. She taught me how to blow a bubble as a kid. And I always loved meeting her high school boyfriends, especially the cool guy who drove the brand new 88 Pontiac Fiero and came over one night. That relationship fizzled, but her eventual wedding to David was the best I'd ever attended. And I think that includes my own. Sorry, honey. Just like her, it was classy, wildly fun, full of love, and completely unforgettable. I'm not happy about having to live in a world without her, but I'm eternally elated for having had her in my life as long as I did. We love you, Suzanne. Rest in light and love.
Thank you so much. And now we'll hear from Robin Miller, a good friend.
Suzanne, she was a treasured friend to all of us. Everyone here today was touched by an angel that existed right here on earth. Suzanne represented all that was good in the world. She didn't have a mean bone in her body. I stand here today in awe of her We met many years ago when we were young and learning to navigate the world. We'd been friendly for many years, but it was the Highland Park High School Penguins after party that sealed our fate. We were in the middle of what I remember to be a field somewhere. It was not the last random place we would ever find ourselves together. Suzanne approached me in need of a ride home. I enthusiastically assured her I would get her home, eventually. That ride never ended. Together, we forged our way through Highland Park High School, the University of Kansas, single life in Chicago, and on to marriage and children. Through it all, Suzanne was a steadfast and loyal friend. We truly enjoyed the time we shared. And when not riding together, we loved hearing about what each other was up to and who we were meeting along the way. Suzanne and I had become each other's living journals. There was nothing off limits, and we never tired of talking to each other. And so it has gone daily for as long as I can remember. Suzanne and I had a great time through all these years. We got into some trouble. We laughed a lot. As you all know, she had the best laugh. And we learned a lot. We grew. Suzanne had an amazing knack for making everyone she met feel valuable. She had an unassuming disposition and truly saw each person as worthy of attention. As I said to David and Suzanne at their rehearsal dinner, Suzanne has never met a stranger. I believe anyone who has ever been in public with Suzanne would agree that this is true. From the grocer to the waiter to the guy in front of her in line or the parent standing outside a classroom door, Suzanne was there with a benevolent smile and a kind word. Suzanne and I were blessed to be part of a fabulous group of friends at the University of Kansas. In an effort to exemplify just how Suzanne cared for her friends, I want to share a silly story with you. It kept us all laughing for years. We gathered daily to watch the soap opera, All My Children. The storyline at the time was about a woman named Natalie, whose secret evil twin had trapped her in a well and was impersonating her. A friend of ours, not as invested in the commitment to the soap opera, had entered our apartment. Noticing we were all glued to the TV and sensing our desperate concern for poor Natalie, they innocently asked, "Who is that trapped in the well?" Suzanne turned from the TV and without missing a beat said in the most serious of voices, "A very dear friend." She wasn't kidding. She was invested deeply and concerned about Natalie. I cannot recreate the laughter that has followed whenever that story is retold, but that is the truth. That is how much Suzanne cared for all the well-being of those that mattered to her, and Natalie had become our friend. Suzanne had the ability to make room for new friends and gathered them everywhere she went. I do not stand here alone. There are many, many people for whom this honor could have been bestowed. I believe I speak for all of us. Suzanne cherished her time with her friends. She was always up for a good time. She was exceptional at navigating social media and found so much pleasure in the posts of everyone near and far. She always had a heart, a thumbs up, a comment to share. I'm grateful she shared so many pictures online, as it will be a treasure trove for all of us to get lost in as the days pass without her here. It is impossible for me to adequately acknowledge everyone important to Suzanne. We were all so very important to her. She maintained contact with people from every single stage of her life. There are people here today and listening today from preschool through college, every place she ever worked, the Blaine community, her synagogue family, those who she met and started her life with in her young 20s, and the amazing community she's created over the last 14 years. Literally every phase, she found and maintained tight connections with those she called friends. She loved to dance to live music, and costume parties were at the top of her list. Suzanne loved life. Gathering with old friends in Lakeside, Michigan was something she always looked forward to. She loved Parent Weekend on the lakes of Minocqua, Wisconsin with the Agawam families who have become some of her closest friends. Suzanne also loved snow skiing and all the fun that came with it. As Suzanne would describe it, she loved lake life and, As Suzanne would describe it, she loved lake life and would one day live on a lake. unless she was out west in the mountains. Then she loved mountain life and would one day live in the mountains. That was our Suzanne, loving life right where she was in real time. Whether on her back porch or out her front door, Suzanne derived so much happiness seeing her neighbors. She loved the littles. I have no doubt that Suzanne's sunny disposition is responsible for curating the many amazing friendships on Marshfield. There's a saying that friends are the family we choose, and that certainly was true for us. We were chosen sisters, and how blessed I have been. We have been loved by each of each other's parents, and we have loved each other's parents. And as a bonus, I got Suzanne's entire family, who I have come to cherish over the years. I'm confident that for Suzanne, nothing would bring her more joy than knowing how she has connected people and how many friendships have grown from the seeds of her kindness. The beauty in talking about Suzanne and friendship is that it leads to her number one, David. Suzanne and David shared a lifetime of friendship, sharing all these years together before realizing they were meant to be with each other allowed them for an incredible foundation for their marriage, but also the opportunity to carry their youthfulness into their adulthood. Together in love and friendship, they built their family life, resulting in their greatest accomplishment, Eliza. Suzanne could not have been more grateful or more proud to be Eliza's mom. Eliza brought Suzanne her greatest joy. With Suzanne leading the way, Eliza has been exposed to the world's best example of how to be a friend. The example has clearly paid off as Eliza has an amazing group of friends. These girls have celebrated Eliza and rallied around Eliza, and it is clear that Eliza loves them dearly. With Suzanne passing, I know life will never be the same. Suzanne was the golden egg. She was one of a kind and truly loved so very, very much. I will carry Suzanne with me every day forward, and I encourage you all to do the same. We can't ever get over the loss of Suzanne. We have to move through it, and while the finish line may keep moving, we would all be wise to do more of what Suzanne would have done. Always smile at strangers, stay a little longer at the party, make new friends, don't take ourselves too seriously, laugh and play, see the good in people, and be gracious. If we do that, we will be honoring the best of the best, our sweet Suzanne.
Thank you so much, Robin. As I look at this row here, I want to say to you, Suli and Mark, I'm so grateful that you're here for your son and your granddaughter. Not to mention your daughter and this extraordinary family. They need you, and you have been such a beautiful support. Thank you. And Brent and Shauna, our hearts ache with you. You brought Suzanne so much joy by bringing your boys the constant phone calls. Those boys lit her up. She loved them so much. So many stories, always, always. And Nanette. Now, Suzanne has a very different nature from you. Carefree is not how most people would describe you, Nanette. But to move into the home, to be able to shuttle people where they needed to go and dogs where they needed to go. Nanette, that loving spirit of Suzanne, directly from you. On behalf of David and Eliza, thank you. David and Eliza, no words. Our hearts break with you. Thank God, Eliza, you're not just Suzanne Light. You're Suzanne's light. You're your mom's light, and you bring that to all of us, and we are so grateful, so grateful. So as many of us know here, Suzanne loved the Grateful Dead. Yes, I'm looking at you, Bobby. I'm proud that the husbands did sneak their way in here. She loved going to Dead shows when she was younger. And I love imagining her dancing with strangers that became friends in an instant, making friends with the guys selling grilled cheese and brownies, laughing that incredible laugh, soaking in the sunshine and spinning with the stars. Suzanne. Now, Brent loved the Dead so much that he took his father, Steve, to a show with Suzanne. Now, that had to have been Suzanne's idea. Yeah. I love it. Now, one of my brothers is a huge Deadhead, and he followed them for years. And he may or may not have sold Suzanne a grilled cheese or a brownie. And he took me to many shows. And there's a song by the Grateful Dead that has been playing in my heart since Suzanne died. Now, it's an obscure song, bird song. It goes like this. I'm not going to sing it. All I know is something like a bird within her sang. All I know, she sang a little while and then flew on. If you hear that same sweet song again, will you know why? Anyone who sings a tune so sweet is passing by. Laugh in the sunshine, sing, cry in the dark, fly through the night. That sweet song of Suzanne, beautiful raspy voice, endless welcoming smile, thin, strong arms that could hold our pain and our love, stories that could go on for days and days and days and will last a lifetime. Anyone who sings a tune so sweet is passing by. Laugh in the sunshine, sing, cry in the dark. Suzanne was born in Skokie, raised in Highland Park, and according to Nanette, she was born smiling. Well, maybe not smiling, but soon after she was smiling. And it won't surprise you to know that she started talking before the age of 1 and never stopped. And she used that sweet voice to get just what she wanted. Try to put her down for a nap? No way. Suzanne did not want to miss any of the action. Nanette would try to sneak out to catch a bit of sun with her sister-in-law on a visit to Miami, while Suzanne was down for a nap, but Suzanne was having none of that. Mommy, mommy, she called. When that didn't work, she imitated her best grown-up voice and shouted, Nanette. She always knew how to get our attention. And when her brother Brent was born, she loved having a cute little brother, a playmate, to boss around. And poor Brad never got a word in. And the beauty of Nanette and Steve is that they raised their children with a gaggle of cousins. And Suzanne, as we have heard, was cousin number 1, the number 1 cousin. And she was also known by her grandpa Herb as Susie Q. And at any gathering of cousins on either side of the family, Suzanne brought the fun. Now, Brent, you only alluded to this, but let me just say just a little bit more, because when they were young, they made a game of jumping off of Aaron's bunk bed into a pile of pillows. And Suzanne pushed Brent off, causing him to miss the pile of pillows and breaking his arm. Now, while Suzanne and the cousins felt terrible, her cousins were also secretly excited because their coolest cousin, Suzanne, was spending the night. Suzanne would gather the cousins to put on skits, and one year, Brent and Brad tried to spoil the show by coming in leotards. But she knew how to put them in their place. This may have been the first time of many when she told them, "You were the most selfish people in the world." And Brad readily admits she wasn't wrong. It was hard for Suzanne to fathom being selfish because she was one of the most selfless people in the world. She was always looking out for everyone's best interest, constantly sharing her wisdom. She was the cool oldest cousin number one. And yet she still included all of the younger cousins, letting them hang out with her friends. And when each succeeding family member entered high school at Highland Park, sometimes socially cutthroat, a la the John Hughes films that were filmed near those environs, she took each family member under her wing and let them know where to go, and more importantly, where not to go. Specifically, don't go to the North cafeteria. As they say, North is for nerds. I now think that nerds is a compliment, but that's a different story. Now, of course, Suzanne was a social butterfly throughout school, completely connected to a large group of friends, but then moving seamlessly between groups as well. She was a constant connection between seemingly everyone. Yet, there was one connection as electric as the one, there was no other connection as electric as the one between Suzanne and David. They met in junior high and became good friends in high school. And they hung out together constantly. They were always dating other people, and the timing was never quite right for them. But there was a palpable spark. And there's this picture of them from senior ditch day that says it all. David and Suzanne rolled up together in one blanket, laughing and looking at each other. So Suzanne went to University of Kansas, whose Jayhawk she has rooted for her whole life, and David went to Denver. And even in the absence of seeing each other daily, there was that spark. And David couldn't help comparing his college girlfriend to Suzanne. So after college, they started secretly dating. They spent all their time together and talked to each other and about each other constantly. Yet no one seemed to catch on. In fact, Nanette said to Suzanne, "You'll never find anyone if you keep hanging out with David." Now, David, I had hoped that she would say, "You'll never find anyone as good as David." And when I mentioned that to Nanette, she said, both are true. Eventually, they came out as a couple and they fell in love on a trip to Steamboat, which is good because while you guys were on a hike over that weekend, Suzanne said to you, David, nonchalantly, "By the way, at the end of the week, my lease is up." So you moved in together. And 2 years later, David wanted their engagement to be perfect. He planned a surprise 30th birthday party at Nanette's. He went and snuck into a jeweler in Highland Park and bought a ring, and then hid it in the vault of a video game in their basement. He went on a ski trip and said, "If anything happens to me, don't sell the video game." On that ski trip, he got her, Suzanne, a ski jacket and gloves for a trip that they were going to be going on the next month. So when he got back, he put the ring in the ring finger of the left glove, put those in the jacket, had Suzanne try on her jacket on the day of the 30th birthday party, and she couldn't quite get her hand into the glove. And David said, just shove it in. She shoved it in, took her hand out, and the ring was on her finger perfectly. It was meant to be. So that night, as everybody yelled, "Surprise, happy birthday," she lifted up her hand and said, "I got engaged." It was a surprise party for everyone except for David. And when she was planning for her wedding day, such a joy. All the cousins gathered. They got married at a standard club. And Brad, I believe you said that it was the best night you've ever had, including your own wedding. You didn't mention that you were sober at the wedding. The chuppah was suspended. Everyone was gathered. Everyone was there. And Suzanne almost couldn't believe that this was happening to her. The rabbi was there officiating. Her back was to the crowd, yet she kept peeking over her shoulder, like, "Can you believe it? Can you believe it?" She and David, just beautiful. She was welcoming everyone in, even during her own wedding ceremony. But at the reception, when they danced to U2's Stuck in a Moment, she didn't look at anyone except David. They danced to the words, "I will not forsake the colors that you bring, the nights that you filled with fireworks. They left you with nothing. I am still enchanted by the light you brought me. I listen through your ears. Through your eyes, I can see." They remained enchanted, dancing through life together. And they did so surrounded by family and friends. One friend said that Suzanne made everyone feel special instantly, at ease. If you were new to a group, she was the one who would seek you out and make it her mission to make you feel comfortable. It was a gift she had and used liberally, which resulted in Suzanne fans everywhere. And it didn't stop there. Suzanne showed up. How many of us had her show up at a vital moment, the birth of a child, a difficult situation? She made people her priority, and she was always present. Suzanne began a weekly tradition of Tuesday nights at the Bagel with Grandma Joe and Grandpa Art, and invited cousin number 6, Seth. Suzanne was back from college and had a weekly date with their grandparents. And really, Seth's fraternity brothers could barely believe, was it true that really every Tuesday night they were really having bagels with their grandparents? Yes. She made friends everywhere she went. Some of her best friends, Suzanne has known since she was 8. And Erica and Robin and Ari and Suzanne and David, once they could drive, would drive up to Lakeside, Michigan, where Ari's family had a compound of cabins on the beach. They'd fire up the biggest bonfires, cook grand meals, where Suzanne always contributed by setting a beautiful table. They'd play silly games and dance on the beach. And years later, when Ari married Erica, then Suzanne and Erica became the Cohn sisters. And every summer, the 4 of them and Robin returned to Lakeside. And Suzanne was always the life of the party. She'd embrace strangers on the beach and invite them over for cocktails and fireworks. And when the compound had no vacancies, it was only Suzanne, who wasn't a family member, who could always get in. And then she invited everyone else. Laughing and dancing, jumping in the lake, zooming around with wave runners, often watching the sunset and stars shimmer as they wrapped up beautiful days at the lake together. Now, David said that He gave his best to Suzanne for their engagement. Like, that was as good as it got. But of course, we know that's not true. He and Suzanne gave the best to each other for their beautiful Eliza. She was born on the coldest day of 2006 on December 2nd. And at a certain point, Suzanne kicked everyone else out of the room, and Eliza was born. And holding Eliza later, David looked at Suzanne and said, "Can you believe you can fall in love in 1 second?" From the time that Eliza went to Gan Shalom, Eliza could hardly wait to tell Suzanne all about her day. And like Suzanne, Eliza is not necessarily the very best storyteller. Every detail seems important, so what could you leave out? But what Eliza lacked in poignancy, she made up in speed. So Suzanne would repeatedly say to you, slow down, slow down. And in the past weeks, Suzanne just went like this to Eliza. And it worked. Every morning with Eliza and David and Suzanne began with Snugglefest. All the way up until Eliza was 11. She would crawl into her parents' bed in the morning and they would snuggle together. That is until Eliza had to put on her uniform for Blaine. And only Eliza could argue with Suzanne about what to wear when all she needed to put on was a uniform. But that was the thing about the two of them. They cared about fashion. Eliza even raided her mom's closet to pick out something for her first day of in-person learning this year. Suzanne was the most spectacular mother, not only to Eliza, but as a second mom to so many of Eliza's best friends. Suzanne was always creating circles of support. Her laughter, the way she lit up the room with a smile, her very presence. She loved all of us. She showed up. She loved going to visit on visiting weekend at camp, along with the Shaws and the Bravermans and the Strausses and friends from Ohio, to spend the day on a lake together. David was always the captain of the boat, and she was his co-captain, and it was always guaranteed to be so much fun. She lent us her spectacular outfits so we could feel like $1 million at family events. She always had ways of making us feel better. I'll close with this piece from Zachary, a family member, who wrote that when you're a kid, you never really know any grown-ups. So he wrote, "I was at a formative stage in my own development, having just departed college and truly fending for myself. I was filled with secret fears that being a grown-up was a life sentence to total boredom." No offense to all the adults here, but not Suzanne. Suzanne was the first adult he knew who gave him the faith that there was something different, some part of the passage of time that held something to look forward to. He wrote, "The last time I came to visit you, Suzanne, we were only in town briefly, and you let Eliza say she was sick and stay home from school. Tromping up the street in the crunching leaves, peering inside newspaper boxes in search of hidden treasures on a weekday afternoon, I remember thinking to myself, this is a mom who understands what's important. I was proud to be part of your family. You were a parent that hadn't let the world extinguish your need for mischief and frivolity. You were a family member I was actually friends with. You were a grown-up I wasn't afraid to become." Suzanne opened the world for all of us. And David and Eliza, you let us all in. In these past weeks, you allowed people to come in from work, from family, from all these different circles of friends, so that everyone could be with our beloved Suzanne. And she lit up because of it. In these past weeks, close family and friends streamed through. And in a rare quiet moment when I was visiting, and it was just the two of us and her caretaker, Candy, at one point, Candy looked at me and she said, "I've never seen so much love." I'm not sure if she was referring to all the people who had poured out their love to Suzanne, or she was commenting on Suzanne herself, who more than anyone we've known poured out her love to all of us. All I know is something like a bird within her sang. All I know, she sang a little while and then flew on. Our beautiful Suzanne flew on, but her song remains. There's another more familiar song by the Grateful Dead, whose words Suzanne embodied, Ripple. Her encouraging words that glowed with the gold of sunshine. The way her every action was like a dance to a tune that was played on an unstrung harp of her soul. Her voice was like music, lighting us up, coming through in every situation when we needed her. And we still hold it near. It's our own. As she reached out her hand to fill our empty cup again and again, we, the brokenhearted, reach out to one another, guided by her light, filled with her fountain of love. The ripples she cast in the lakes of our lives, they are endless, endless, and nourishing. And they continue to spread in limitless circles eternally. Zichrona livracha. Suzanne's memory is an everlasting blessing.
If my words did glow with the gold of sunshine, and my tune were played on the harp unstrung, would you hear my voice come through the music? Would you hold it near as if it were your own? Ripple in the water when there is no pebble tossed, nor wind to blow. Reach out your hand. If your cup be empty, if your cup is full, may it be again. Let it be known there is a fountain that was made by the hands of men. There is a road, no simple highway, between the dawn and the dark of the night. And if you go, no one may follow. That path is for your steps alone. Ripple in still water when there is no pebble tossed, no wind to blow. You choose to lead, must follow. But if you fall alone. If you should stand, then who's to guide you? If I knew the way, I would take you home. La, 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 la. 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 La, 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 la. La, 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 la. La, la, la.
We invite you to rise as we pray that Suzanne's soul is bound up in eternal life.
אלמלא רחמים שוכן ממרומים המצא מנוחה נכונה תחת כנפי השכינה אם כראשים וטורים כזוהר הרקיע מזהירים את נשמת שרה שלמה נעמי שלחה לעולמה על הרחמים יסתיריה בסתר כנפיו לעולמי ויתרור החיים את נשמתה אדוני הוא נחלתה ותנוח בשלום על משכבה ונאמר אמן.
God, God of abundant mercy, God most high, may the soul of our loved one who has gone into eternity find the gift of perfect peace in your embrace with the holy and pure, whose light shines like the radiance of heaven. Compassionate God, hold her close to you forever, so that her soul may be bound up in the life eternal. May she find a home with you, and may she, our beloved Suzanne Cohn, rest in peace, as together we say, Amen.
Amen. On the back of your program, you'll find Kadisha Tome, the Mourner's Kaddish. Yitgadal, Vidi Kadash, Shemay Rabban.
Amen.
Yoma Divarach, Hirute, Viamlich Malchute. V'chayachon of Yomechon, V'chaye Dechol Beit Yisrael. V'agala Vizman Kariv Imru Amen.
Amen.
Yehi Shmei Rabba Mevarach Leolam Olamei Omaya. Yitbarach V'yishtabach V'yitpa'ar V'yitromam V'yitnaseh. V'yithadar V'yitaleh V'yithalal Shemei D'Kedusha B'richu. Le'ela Min Kol Birchata V'shirata. Tushbachata V'nechamata. Ta'amiran B'alma V'imru Amen. Yehesh Lama Rabba Min Shamaya. V'chaim Alinu V'al Kol Yisrael. V'imru Amen. Oseh Shalom B'imromav. Hu Ya'aseh Shalom. Alinu V'al Kol Yisrael. V'imru Amen.
Oseh Shalom B'imromav. Hu
יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ויראו אמן.
Please remain standing as we escort the family from the sanctuary. Once they've left, we'll ask everyone to please be seated. Please be seated. For those who are here, I know the family appreciates your presence. And for the many hundreds of people that were online, the family also appreciates your presence. Memorial contributions in her memory to the Wolf Pancreatic Cancer Foundation or Temple Shalom would be appreciated. That information is on your service folder. For those of you online, that information is on our website at Chicago Jewish Funerals. We're going to just wait here for a few moments until the family safely gets into their cars, and then we'll excuse people section by section in this room and also in the room behind us. So we appreciate your patience. It'll just be a few moments.